Hey everybody, this is Max, your customer success lead here at Clockwork. And today I wanted to walk you through the entire Clockwork platform and show you how you can leverage it to better understand your business health, how to save time in forecasting out the future of your business, and how to build out multiple what-if scenarios that you compare to that initial forecast. Now, this is going to be helpful whether you're an entrepreneur and doing this for your own business, you're a CEO who's trying to delay the hiring of a CFO or a finance team, or if you're an advisor working with clients and you want to keep them engaged in your monthly CFO services, you're in the right place. So let's go ahead and get started. If you haven't tried Clockwork before, we can start a free trial here. I'm going to go ahead and hit login. The website is clockwork.ai, and I'm going to click login there. Alright, and now that I'm logged into Clockwork, I see all the companies that I'm a part of. I can go ahead and click into one, or I can add a new company if I want to. All you need to have to add a new company are admin credentials and the underlying Xero company you're trying to connect, or the underlying QBO company you're trying to connect. In this case, I'm just going to click to a pre-existing company. Alright, so the first area of the Clockwork platform I want to drill into today is the dashboard. It's a great place to go for a high-level performance overview of your business. So how you've been doing, how you are doing, and how you will be doing in the future, based off all your data from QBO or Xero, as well as all of the forecast you've built out custom to your business in Clockwork. So we see our financial model here charted out for us. We can see actuals and forecasts, as well as our cash flow. But the first question we typically get on the dashboard is, where does my Clockwork score come from? Why is it a B? Why is it an A? Why is it a C+? We can click show more to see the underlying components for our Clockwork score here. Of course, we have some key metrics along the top as well. And we have latest activity. So you can see who was last making adjustments in the account, who added an account to the chart of accounts, who created an assumption or a scenario by clicking show more here. And of course, we have our financial model here. This is going to reflect what's built out in your financial model, whether you've been hands off with that and you say, hey, I'll just take the intelligent forecast, or if you've been building out assumptions. Everything will be incorporated here in the visual representation, all charted out. Let's say we wanted to look at our revenue, COGS, and gross profit. We can deselect everything else, see how our actuals are, and then of course see our forecasted. And we can look back up to 3 years or 36 months, as well as look forward up to 5 years or 60 months. And if we scroll down, we can see our cash flow. So this is looking at a weekly basis. We can see our cash in, our cash out, and ending cash, both for actuals as well as forecasted. And this can go out up to 52 weeks or an entire year. Of course, you can configure in settings, which I'll cover later, whether this is weekly or monthly. With that, let's dive into the financial model. That's how all of this is really driven. All right, so now that we're in the financial model, this is where you're going to be dialing in the forecast for your business. Out of the box, it's going to be built out. It's going to incorporate those past 3 years of financial data, including transaction level history, learning seasonality, in order to build this out. However, there's always things about your business that you know better than your past data does. So that's why you want to create assumptions. That's why you want to create new accounts or group accounts together. Because while this reflects all of the data from your QuickBooks or your Xero, there's always more to incorporate moving forward. So the first thing I typically do when I enter into our financial model is I think, okay, is our chart of accounts still accurate? Or is there a new product that I want to model out? Or are there groups that I want to create for more financial visibility? For that, I'll go to these 3 dots here. I'll click either add row or create group. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think, okay, how do I make money and how do I spend money and how are those things changing from how they were in the past? Well, for sales, I'm going to want to create a sales pipeline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click into this cell. I could also click add assumption at the top and select this particular account. All right, now that we're ready to build our assumption, we establish a name for it as well as its timeline. So when do we want this forecast to end? We'll select our forecasting rules. This could either be manually editing, which is going to overwrite each individual cell. We can also use a growth rate, which this is either a month over month, quarter over quarter, or year over year growth rate. And then we have a percentage of account. This is really useful for COGS. Let's say our COGS was consistently 25% of revenue and we built out a revenue forecast. Well, we're going to want to keep that relationship between COGS and revenue solidified going forward. So we could do a percentage of account rule. We also have our price times quantity or product service. This is really useful for our direct to consumer models or e-commerce models where you have maybe, let's just say, a $15 product and you're planning on selling 100 of it. And then we have our custom formula, which is my favorite. It's super flexible. This allows you to do just about anything in Clockwork. And for this, I'm just going to build out a mock sales pipeline. So I'm going to call this average deal size. I'm going to add another variable. It's going to be multiplied. This is going to be number of leads. I'll just call it leads. And then we have our conversion rate. So essentially what I'm building out here is our entire sales pipeline. It's incorporating conversion, leads, and average deal value. So we have it, really accurate. And then we have, let's say, just like 5,000 is our average deal size. We plan on this staying the same. So I'll click that green arrow. I'll say same value each month. We can go ahead and apply it there. Our leads, we're actually running a new marketing campaign. So we think this is going to go up, and this is going to change by about 2 each month for the next 4 months. Then we have our conversion rate. Let's just say this is industry standard, 25%. And this is going to stay flat across the board. I could add more variables, but this is actually going to, encapsulate everything I'm trying to do here. So we'll go ahead and save that rule. And then we'll save our assumption. So that's how you build an assumption in Clockwork. And now we see that this line also has aqua over it, which means it has an assumption. And that assumption we created now impacts our cash flow as well. But before we jump into the cash flow model, just a couple more things I want to touch on is that we can edit columns here. So you can edit your layout to, include a variance that could be, percentage or dollar, versus your forecast, actual versus forecast, or you can do a percentage of revenue. And it can also be shown as either, monthly totals, quarterly, or yearly. And one last note, we can also download to Excel here in the top right. So if you want to export this model to Excel, totally viable. Just click there. All right, now let's go ahead and dive into the cash flow model. Awesome. Now in the cash flow tool, the number one most important thing to remember here is that our cash flow is driven by our financial model. So whether you've created 50 assumptions or 0, either way, your cash flow is going to be a direct response to your financial model. We have layered on top of the financial model your custom timing profile. And what that means is, we've learned your invoicing and how that translates to cash in. We've learned your billing and how that translates to cash out. And we've layered that on top of the financial model to get you an accurate cash flow model. Now we see cash in, cash out, ending cash, and net cash flow week over week in this case. You can also look at, cash revenue, invoices collected, cash expenses, bills paid. And another way we can actually forecast things like balance sheet movements in this case is by going into other cash in or other cash out. Now, in the case where we might want to take on some more debt, maybe we get a small loan from the bank, that would be other cash in, and it would be a liability as well, right? So we could click into any forecasted cell within other cash in and liabilities and type in whatever we take on as a loan. So that's one way to forecast balance sheet activities in Clockwork. We can also dial in our cash flow model by editing upcoming and overdue invoices and bills. So I can actually click into our invoices, and Clockwork is going to show me all of our upcoming invoices. We don't have any in this particular account. And then all of our overdue invoices, out of the box, it's going to be sorted by due date. Right now we just have 90 plus days, but there can be 60 to 90 and 30, sub 30. But we can sort this by individual customer as well as amount due. Maybe we want to sort it by amount due so that we can start at the top of our list and work down, make sure we get the most valuable invoices knocked out. Or we can sort it by customer. If there's a typical culprit who's always overdue on their invoices, we can actually select by customer here, like we do for city limousines, and we can edit both invoices together. So maybe we get off the phone with them and we edit the expected pay date. They said they're going to pay on August 28th. And then boom, our cash flow model is even further dialed in. Awesome. Now on to metrics. So metrics is going to be your home base for tracking business performance and measuring your business health. There's 16 metrics out of the box that you can use, but you can also build custom metrics too that incorporate operational data, non-financial data, and we call those custom drivers. We'll get to that in a second. For now, let's just focus on a high level. So we have our metrics already out here on the page. We can change the date range we're looking at these metrics by. So maybe we look back to February 21 to February 22. We can go to just this fiscal year, last fiscal year, or past 12 months. But we can also customize this dashboard. So one way to do that would be clicking Customize Metrics and going and hiding any metric that we don't need to be looking at right now. Right? We don't want to overwhelm our client. We don't want to overwhelm anybody on our team that we're sharing this metrics dashboard with. So we want to make sure we're only including pertinent metrics here. We can go to our select metrics to see what metrics we've built out before, and you'll see your stock metrics here too, the 16 that are already out of the box. But let's say we want to add a new metric to our dashboard that hasn't been built out yet. How we're going to do that is we're going to go to Add Custom Metric up here in the top middle. And let's go ahead and track something like revenue per employee. Now that incorporates both financial information that's brought in from your underlying accounting source, as well as operational data that's through a custom driver in Clockwork. So let's just walk through this. We're going to go ahead and add in our total revenue, and we're going to put that over headcount. But if I go to custom drivers here, I see I don't have headcount yet. So what I'll do is I'll create a new custom driver. I'll call this headcount. This unit is a number and it behaves as a balance, and we'll save and we'll add it to our formula. And there we go. We've now built out our revenue per employee formula. Now, a really cool aspect of this feature in Clockwork is we actually don't have to go back to settings in order to update our custom drivers. We just go to our metrics dashboard. We see the metric revenue per employee that we're leveraging our custom driver called headcount, and it has an orange dot in the top right. If we hover over, it says there's missing data. We can go update data. And now we can go ahead and update our actuals for that particular driver so it doesn't interrupt our workflow. So I can just do 40 employees. We'll say this is consistent across the board, same value each month. And we'll go ahead and save. And there we updated our driver and thus updated our formula, our custom metric. All right, now let's go ahead and dive into the scenario writer, which is a really flexible area of the platform. Reason being is you could approach it like building a bull case and a bear case scenario, an upside downside scenario, or you could compare and contrast, hiring 10 employees versus hiring 5 employees. Really, the purpose of the scenario writer is to build alternative what if scenarios that you can compare against your financial model. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and dive in and just build a simple scenario here. So if we wanted to add a new scenario, we could call this down case. We'll choose our revenue accounts we want to work with. Let's just go with sales here. Let's add a new assumption to our sales. Right now, it carries over what we have with our financial model. So let's just attach a growth rate and say, negative 10% month over month over what we had anticipated in our financial model. And with that, we'll also cut down our expenses a little bit. Maybe we cut down our advertising and marketing spend. Let's add an assumption here. Let's say we decrease our advertising and marketing spend by negative 10%. Really quick, I'm going to change our end date, the end of this year. Then we'll save our assumption. And once we're done, we can go to our summary. All right, so now in the summary, we can view our forecast, our baseline financial model against the scenario. You also see it charted out here. We can see the discrepancies, and we can, of course, edit the scenario as well. We could do the same for cash flow. So we can view our forecast against the scenario as well as see it charted out here. But finally, our last step is to go view the scenario. So when we press view scenario, we see our scenario against our forecast, and we can see the percentage variance in terms of revenue, in terms of COGS, in terms of our op expenses, and ultimately EBITDA and net income at the bottom of our screen here. And of course, we can edit columns just like we do in the financial model as well. And now last but not least, let's go ahead into settings. This is where you'll configure your profile in Clockwork, as well as handle your billing. You can also go into users and invite new users. If I wanted to invite a colleague or a client, I could type in their email here, and then I could just say, okay, they're going to be an admin, editor, or view only access. We also have model settings. So this is for defining how long your projections are to go out for, when your fiscal year begins, also when your books are reconciled on average, right? If we're using a growth rule in the financial model, we want to make sure we're looking back to actuals at the proper time versus looking back at forecasts. You set that time here. And then you could define whether your cash flow model is weekly or monthly here. And then finally, you have connected data. This is where you make sure your QuickBooks Online or your Xero are connected, as well as you create custom drivers and manage them as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this demo. If you have any questions, have any feedback, feel free to reach out to us in the support chat in the bottom right of Clockwork. You can also subscribe to a free 32-day trial in the top right of this video. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.